Hey guys, how you doing? Today we're going to do a little bit of basic electrical diagnosing today. We're going to talk about fuses, we're going to talk about a tool called a test light, and I'm just going to get right into it. So let's talk a little bit about this tool called the test light. So this tool I have in my hand literally costs about $3 and very low tech, and you can diagnose a lot of different things with this tool right here. So it's got a little alligator clip on it, and if you want to test to see if anything has got voltage, positive voltage, you hook it on ground, negative symbol, or you can hook it to a bolt on your engine, because all the metal bolts are ground also. The thing is, you got to make sure they're clean and no paint, because it won't have electricity flow through paint or anything rubber. It'll act like an insulator. So if that's a good ground and I touch positive on my battery, a light comes on, light bulb comes on. All right, but just to make sure I have good ground, I'm going to hook it up right to my negative terminal on my battery. I always test to see if my light is good before I do any diagnosing, and my light comes on. So let's start off with some fuses. So in this particular car, there's two fuse boxes. There's one that's called the engine compartment fuse box, and it's got fuses that you could just look to see if they're burnt out. They have a little glass window, but then we have all these mini fuses, and these mini fuses, you can't visually really see if they're blown or popped. So what you have to do is, on the very top of the fuse, there's a little metal piece that sticks out, and if you have power on both sides of the fuse, they're good. Now we're probably going to come up to one that's dead, that's got nothing on either side, because the key has to be on. So these fuses are what are called hot, key off. Then we're going to have to check the fuses that are hot with key in run position. All right, so far I have not found any fuses that are bad in this compartment. All right, now I've done this many times, and I think this might be the only fuse that comes on when the key is on. So let's go in the car and we'll put the key in the run position. All right, so it's key off. Key in run position. You'll see all your lights on your dash come on when you're in key in run position. Now we'll go back out and check that fuse. Okay, so this one was not coming on earlier, now is hot in run position. Now I believe these two still remain dead. All right, so when I talk to you next time, we're going to be doing another fuse box called passenger compartment fuse box. They call it on this vehicle. Now some call it instrument cluster. What do they call this one? Passenger compartment fuse panel. So this particular one is located on the passenger side floor. This one is located passenger side floor kick panel. So where the passenger sits, where their foot would hit the side of the car, there's going to be a little panel. And they're all numbered and tells us what they actually energize. Like we have a dimmer switch, trailer tow, park lights, all your different lights, all your different interior stuff if you want to know what they're for, all right? So next time I see you, we'll be in the passenger compartment. Okay, so now we're going to test this couple fuses in this fuse box. So these little ones, if we, I have to make sure I got a good ground. So I got my test light on ground, got my key on engine run position. Motor's not running though, but these fuses too, I hit each side and I see if they're good or not. So if it lights on both sides of the fuse, it's good. I don't know if I have any bad fuses in this car, but we're checking them. All right, I'll check all these fuses, make sure they're hot on both sides. But that's how you check your fuses. You should have a good visual of this now. By the way, if you want to know what these little boxes are, they're called relays. They're a switching device. But all we're worried about is all these little fuses, if they're good or not. Okay guys, another reason why it might be important to know where your fuse locations are. If we look at this book, say we needed to do a compression test and we needed to make our motor crank but not start, we might want to remove fuel from it. So if we look right here, this is our fuel pump fuse in space number 23. So we go to that, which would be this fuse right here. We could pull this fuse and then wind up making our car not run. So let's go inside the car and crank it, see if it starts. Like you'd have to crank the engine for a compression test. So I go to my key, and it does not run. No fuel. Now this is what it looks like when a fuse is bad. We'll have power on one side, but it won't make the test light light up on the other side. And if you pull the fuse out, oh my god, she's in there. You can see that it's broken in the middle. It's supposed to look like a little bit like a roller coaster loop in there. I had another fuse laying around, but I don't. So if you look in the center of that fuse, see how there's like a little loop in it, and that one has no loop in it? That's what they visually look like when they're blown out. There's no piece of metal in there to make voltage go from this side to that side. No way for current to flow. So that's what the internals of a fuse look like when they're popped. So this one right here is popped. This one is not. If you see, these metal pieces are connected to a tiny little piece of metal at the top. This is how we're touching them and seeing if they got power or not. Little tiny piece of metal sticking out of the top that you touch with your test light. The common problem with teenagers' cars is they wind up not having their power ports work. But if you have a test light and you make it touch the very center, that should make the light bulb come on, because that's where your power is. Now the sides here are ground, so you never want to go from metal to the metal side. That will make the fuse pop. Like they used to be, a lot of them, they used to be in cigarette lighters, and people now hold their change in here. They don't really smoke cigarettes too often. But if you get a piece of like a dime in here, and that dime is making contact from here to here, will pop your fuse. But if you ever wanted to check it and you had a test light, you can go dead center. Like this is a old cigarette lighter, and if you touch the very center, it should be positive. All right, so that's a quick way to check it if you're getting power all the way to your power port or cigarette lighter. But don't have metal touch this outer rim and touch the center at the same time. Like you wouldn't want your test light metal piece to hit the side. That would short it to ground and pop the fuse. One more thing you guys should need to know. See how there's a number 15 on that one fuse and a 30 on the other? That's the rating of the fuse. Any more than 15 amps go through that fuse, it pops it. Any more than 30 goes through that fuse, it pops it. And you put the wrong fuse in the wrong hole, you could wind up having a fire in your car. Like say the fuse is rated for 15 and you put a 30 in it, those wires in your car might catch fire. So make sure you always put the right amperage fuse back in your car.